Hello, we are now up to part 20 in our series following the new church book, Heaven and Hell. And we are now into the final section, the short section at the end of the book that deals with the subject of hell. And in that section we'll find that some of the misconceptions about hell are addressed, including the question of whether or not hell is run by a singular figure who goes by the name of the devil or Satan, by the name Lucifer as well. And so with that in mind, we turn now to a portion of the 14th chapter of the book of Isaiah, where Lucifer is dealt with. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, all of them sleep in glory, everyone in his own house. But you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, like the garment of those who are slain, thrust through with a sword, who go down to the stones of the pit, like a corpse trodden underfoot. You will not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land and slain your people. The brood of evildoers shall never be named. Prepare slaughter for his children because of the iniquity of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess the land and fill the face of the world with cities. Amen. And reading further here from the book Heaven and Hell in the section about hell. People in the world still believe that there is a devil who rules the hells, and that he was created as an angel of light, but was cast into hell with his gang after he led a rebellion. The reason for this belief is that the word talks about the devil and Satan and about Lucifer as well. And in those cases, the word is understood literally. However, in these passages, the devil and Satan mean hell. The devil means the hell toward the rear, where the worst people live, the people called evil demons. And Satan means the hell that is toward the front, where the less malevolent people live, the people called evil spirits. Lucifer means the people who are from Babel or Babylon, the ones who extend their control all the way into heaven. We can also see that there is no devil to whom the hells are subject, from the fact that all the people who are in the hells, like all the people in the heavens, are from the human race. That there are millions there from the beginning of creation to the present day, and that everyone there is the kind of devil he or she became by opposition to the deity while in the world. Amen. We begin today with an idea that might seem a bit strange to some people. And that idea is that hell exists as an expression of the Lord's love. That isn't how hell is normally thought about. Yet that is the reality of heaven that the New Church teachings give us, that the book Heaven and Hell gives us. Along with that, we must know that it must break the Lord's heart every time a person chooses to go there. As we do every week as we worship, this week we spend time to really honour the Lord, to think about His love, to reflect on His mercy and all of the true things that He gives us, to thank Him for life itself, to humble ourselves before Him, to think about the nature of His kingdom. In the section of Heaven and Hell that we're looking at here, this final portion of Heaven and Hell, one of the ideas that stands out very early is the idea that it is the Lord Himself who rules the hells. We heard a reading a short while ago from the prophet Isaiah, talking about Lucifer, the son of the morning. Throughout Scripture you'll find references to the devil or Satan. And what New Church teachings tell us, and we heard this in our reading a few moments ago, was that all of those different titles, devil, Satan, Lucifer, that those different titles don't represent a single individual. In fact, they represent instead regions of hell, regions that define or are defined by the people who live there, the type of evil that exists in those people's hearts, and how far that evil has taken them away from the Lord. Why do people go to hell? Well, the theory that has abounded for many people is with an idea that there is a personal devil or personal Satan, is that Satan or the devil grabs hold of a person and drags them down, as it were. One of the challenges with that, even if there was a single individual who was the devil or Satan or Lucifer, is that the assumption is that the Lord either doesn't care enough or isn't powerful enough to save that person from the devil's grasp. Yet what does that say about the Lord and people's understanding of the Lord? Are they questioning His power? Are they doubting His love? Nobody should question either of those. They also shouldn't think along the lines of the other assumption that people sometimes have, is that it is the Lord Himself who actually casts people into hell, who throws them into eternal prison and damnation, as it were. But why would the Lord ever cast anyone away? He has created everyone. He loves everyone. He therefore would never cast anybody into hell. So if a person doesn't go to hell because the devil or Satan has grabbed them and dragged them down and the Lord hasn't stopped it, or the Lord himself has cast people into hell, if neither of those are true, then why do people go to hell? Well, part of the way to understand all of this is to think about the teachings that we've already been given about why heaven exists and the various different regions that exist within the heavens. Heaven, we're told, is divided into 3 different levels, 3 different degrees. Each one of those degrees representing or being representative of the people who live there. And the people are in those various different regions of heaven because of the way they love the Lord and the way they love their neighbour. And they are together with other people who have a similar love for the Lord and similar love for their neighbours, who worship the Lord in similar ways, who love to be useful in similar ways, who spontaneously, because of shared affections, shared loves, want to be together in communities. But for every positive affection, every positive love for the Lord and for the neighbour, there is a negative equivalent. For every love to the Lord, there is a potentially equally powerful love that a person might have for themselves. For every love that a person might have for serving others, there is the negative love of wanting to possess the things of the world. And so just as heaven is divided into 3 sections of loving, good, angelic people, there is a mirror image of that is hell. And there we find the people who are the exact opposite of what their corresponding community in heaven might look like. A community in the highest heaven that loves the Lord and worships him constantly has a mirror image in hell of people who love themselves more than anything else and who want everybody to worship them. Christianity, for the most part, at least traditionally, has believed in faith alone, salvation by means of faith alone. There's been an assumption there that we as human beings can do nothing about the fact that we are evil or in Satan's grasp, as it's sometimes stated, understood. And therefore the only way out of eternity in hell that we would necessarily go to because of our fallen nature, the only antidote to that is simple faith in the saving power of the Lord, that he will pluck certain people out of certain eternity in hell and will raise them up into his kingdom. There are a whole variety of misassumptions in that type of thinking that the book Heaven and Hell addresses, including in there the idea that's been raised already here, and that is the idea that there is nothing that we can do. Well, the Lord says there's actually a lot that we can do, a lot that we are meant to do. But it is human nature to think that we can't change, or perhaps to be afraid of the possibility of change. And so with that in mind, I'd like to read you a story here, or it's actually a letter a letter that was written by the then Governor of New York State, Martin Van Buren, to the President, Andrew Jackson. And the letter was written on January 31st, 1829. Here's what it said. Dear President Jackson, the canal system of this country is being threatened by the spread of a new form of transportation known as railroads. The federal government must preserve the canals for the following reasons. 1. If canal boats are supplanted by railroads, serious unemployment will result. Captains, cooks, drivers, hostlers, repairmen and lock tenders will be left without means of livelihood, not to mention the numerous farmers now employed in growing hay for the horses. 2. Boat builders would suffer, and tow line, whip and harness makers would be left destitute. 3. Canal boats are absolutely essential to the defense of the United States. In the event of the expected trouble with England, the Erie Canal would be the only means by which we could ever move the supplies so vital to waging modern war. As you may well know, Mr. President, railroad carriages are pulled at the enormous speed of 15 miles per hour by engines, which, in addition to endangering life and limb of passengers, roar and snort their way through the countryside, setting fire to crops, scaring the livestock and frightening women and children. The Almighty certainly never intended that people should travel at such breakneck speed. Signed, Martin Van Buren, Governor of New York. What has that got to do with hell? Hopefully what that letter highlighted is this human challenge with change. We tend to be stuck where we are, having little ability very often to see beyond our current experiences, the things that we've learned from the things that have happened to us in life, the things that we've taught, the things that we've experienced. And so a lot of Christian thinking, in fact a lot of the world's thinking about hell, is based upon old, untrue assumptions. Imagine where the United States would be if the railroads and locomotives really never existed, if they were scratched out as being a problem before they really began to take hold. Imagine where America would be. The Lord talks to us in this section of heaven and hell about how the difference between those who go to heaven and those who go to hell is really a function of whether or not the individual allows the Lord to take from them some of those challenging things. In fact, the whole gamut of challenging things that that person has come into this world saddled with and has picked up along the way. It is the Lord's intention to lead every person in to heaven, to replace every negative thing that is going on in a person's heart and mind with something positive and heavenly from Him. Who goes to hell? Those who resist the Lord's change. Those who insist that they don't want what the Lord has to give them. Who decide that what they really love is selfishness. What they really love is possessing the world's wealth. People who go to hell aren't cast there by the Lord. They go because they freely want to be in a place where they can continue to be selfish, where they can continue to have people worship them, or they can continue to try to convince people to worship them. They want to go to a place where they can stay in hatred toward others, in lasciviousness, in greed, in all those other things. The Lord loves people more than we could possibly ever imagine. And hell then is actually an expression of the Lord's love. If somebody doesn't want to be in heaven, actively resists everything that heaven is about, why would the Lord force somebody to go there? And so what the Lord has done is provided places for people who have rejected Him. He's provided a home for people who cannot stand the idea of being in heaven and everything that heaven entails. As I said right at the beginning, it must break the Lord's heart every time somebody makes that choice. And hopefully very few people out of the world's population will make that choice, that most will hear the Lord's call and come to Him and accept Him and grow in their love from Him, for Him and for their neighbours, and freely enter heaven. But there are some who will not. And the Lord loves them just as much as He loves everybody else. As a suggested task for this week, reflect on an evil feeling or thought that regularly comes to you. Almost all people have some of these. This is a little bit of hell penetrating into your life. We all need the Lord's help to cast these things away. So pray that the Lord might free you from that negative influence. When that evil thought or feeling comes to you, ask the Lord to clear it out and replace it with its opposite. For example, if you feel the urge to control someone else, ask the Lord, please help me not control. Help me to trust that you are leading them in the way best suited to them. And help me find my own path that leads me closer to you. Amen.